Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in again live. Today is Monday, June 17th. It is noon, and thank you for watching the Skill Building Monday Drawing Group here live on the Reinventing the Tattoo Network. My name is Jason Leeser, and I will be your host for today. And if this is working for you, please leave us a comment. Hit that like and subscribe button to stay up to date with all new shows and episodes. And welcome to Guy Aitchison's Reinventing the Tattoo Community, where tattooers, apprentices, collectors, and the curious are encouraged to join in these live streams, real world events to share and inspire and ultimately create better art and tattoos together. We beam out nearly every day, and with your help, have evolved into a quality network of amazing live and on demand tattoo and art shows that have all been receiving rave reviews. You can find Reinventing the Tattoo at www.reinventingthetattoo.com, and you can try it out for free. You do not have to subscribe right away. We have three different options for you to try it out. The first is a sample webinar from the Reinventing the Tattoo Canon, where you get to go through and take a sneak peek into what getting a full subscription would be like. Or the second option, which is to get some free advice from Guy Aitchison about your unique goals. And the third and final option is to take a comprehensive tattoo history course from Jay Brown. And I can tell you right now, if you are a tattoo history nerd such as myself, you cannot go wrong with the tattoo history course. It is unbelievably comprehensive and will teach you way more about the history of tattooing than you could ever imagine. At reinventingthetattoo.com, we also have a full event schedule with full weekly and special event live stream details. So if you wanted to jump into today's interview with Thea Duskin, which we'll be getting started with in just a second, you could go to www.reinventingthetattoo.com and you could pull up the event calendar and you'll see a little link in there for today's live event. You could click on that and access the link to join us live. You could also find access to the Reinventing 24/7 channel at reinventingthetattoo.com. The Reinventing 24/7 channel has 13 different episodes going at any given time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and is accessible on all internet enabled devices. As well, you can also find a whole host of professional development workshops and on demand seminars, all available at reinventingthetattoo.com. You can also find us in both of the app stores, the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store, as well as our Reinventing the Tattoo YouTube channel, our Reinventing the Tattoo Roku channel, which is accessible on all Roku enabled devices and has 12 to 15 different episodes playing at any given time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you can also find us in all of the major podcast directories such as Apple and Spotify. Or you can do what most people do and you can just open up your browser and do a quick search for Reinventing the Tattoo and you'll find it all, except for the book, which is still currently out of print. So if you have a copy and you're willing to part with it, please let me know because I would like to buy it. Um, Once again, if this is working for you, please let us know in the comments and in the chats. And please tag a friend who loves tattoos. We have a number of weekly staple shows we always encourage people to tune into, starting off on Mondays at 9 a.m. with Drawing for Tattooers with James Wisdom, where we get to go through and do a deeper dive into the fundamentals of what it's like to be a fine artist in this tattoo scene today. It really helps us get back to those core fundamentals, those core basic art principles that we all need to know if we really want to maintain being a fine artist in the tattoo world. And that is 9 a.m. Drawing for Tattooers with James Wisdom. Following that, at noon on Mondays, you have this show, which is the Skill Building Monday Drawing Group. And this is hosted by me, Jason Leeser, where we get to go through and discuss a variety of different topics to help us build up our skill sets. We also do a number of different live interviews with artists from all over the world to help us gain a little bit more insight into skill sets, what it's like to be a professional full-time fine artist and tattoo artist at the same time, as well as a whole lot more. And that is noon on Mondays, the Skill Building Monday Drawing Group. And that is followed and capping off Mondays with a 9 p.m. subscribers exclusive drawing group with Sandy McAndrew from the Reinventing the Tattoo Network. And I can tell you right now, this Monday evening drawing group is available only for people that have a subscription to the Reinventing the Tattoo Canon, the Reinventing the Tattoo Evolution, or the Monday evening drawing group subscription. You will only be able to access it if you have one of those three packages. I can tell you from personal experience, having done the Monday evening drawing groups, you will see a notable difference. I did it for about 2 years. If you look at the work I was doing when I first started doing them and the work that I'm doing now, you will see a notable difference in the quality and type of work that I'm doing just from those Monday evening drawing groups alone. It is absolutely worth its weight in gold. I could not recommend it anymore. And that is capping off Monday evening with the 9 p.m. subscribers exclusive drawing group with Sandy McAndrew. Following all of that on Tuesdays, we have the Tattoo Weekly show with Gabe Ripley, Lauren Gregory, and I believe Jake Meeks. And that is at 11 a.m. on Tuesdays. And that's where we can go to kind of catch up on any new legislation or any new tattoo news that might be relevant to the industry as a whole. And that is 11 a.m. on Tuesdays. Following that, on Wednesdays at 12 noon, we have the Tattoo Now show with Gabe Ripley, where we get to do a deeper dive into the business aspect behind tattooing. We get to go through and discuss things such as travel visas and marketing or advertising strategies, client retention, client management, your booking process. How can you speed that up? What are the different business aspects that you're going to need to look into? Well, what about a retirement package? All of that and a whole lot more is discussed at the Tattoo Weekly with Gabe Ripley, or the Tattoo Now show with Gabe Ripley, and that is at noon on Wednesdays. And capping off our week on Thursdays at 6 p.m., we have the Tattoo Collecting 101 podcast with Fawn Baker, where we get to go through and discuss a whole bunch of different topics relating to tattoos, tattoo collecting, and some of the adventures we've had along the way. We do have a special events coming up, starting off with the Hell City Phoenix Tattoo Convention, and that will be August 22nd through 26th in Phoenix, Arizona. And we have got an incredible up for that show. We've got Paul Booth, who will be there tattooing live. We've got Mike Cole. We've got Ty McEwen, Earhart, Amber Joy, my buddy D-Rock, Oak Adams, Anna Mia, Brian Geckel, Jimmy D'Alessio, Pepe Ferrer, Chris Mack, and of course, yours truly. I will also be in attendance. I will also be tattooing at Hell City in Phoenix, Arizona. After that, Reinventing the Tattoo will also be live at the. Oh, nope. Wrong. Nope. Where'd it go? I had this all queued up earlier. Uh, uh, Paradise Tattoo Gathering. There we go. October 24th through 27th in Hancock, Massachusetts. The Paradise Tattoo Gathering will be absolutely incredible this year. I've gone to it for the past few years, and I can tell you I've never seen a lineup like this ever before at Paradise Gathering. We have got some incredible people that will be there giving lectures, including Jake Meeks, Thea Duskin, Kyle Olson, Renee Little, Mickey Schlick, Sandy McAndrew, Corey Ferguson will be there. Steve Butcher's going to be there. Ross Abbott just confirmed to do a seminar. Christina Christie, and a whole lot more will be showing up. Still yet unconfirmed, but we may have people such as Andre Malcolm showing up to do a bodysuit seminar. Anthony Tex may be showing up to do a seminar of his. I mean, we have got an all-star lineup this year. You do not want to miss out on the Paradise Tattoo Gathering this year. It is going to be absolutely incredible. Trust me when I say this is going to be one for the books. You do not want to miss it. That's October 24th through 27th in Hancock, Massachusetts, the Paradise Tattoo Gathering. Would like to go through and take a quick second to thank some of our sponsors and some of the people that make these shows happen. Starting off with worldtattooevents.com, the largest, most comprehensive resource for tattoo events worldwide. If you are still looking for the latest, most up to date information on tattoo events and conventions coming to a city or town near you, or maybe it's one you plan on visiting, it's how I book all of my vacations. Take a look at worldtattooevents.com. You will not go wrong. That is the number one resource for tattoo events and convention information everywhere in the world. Would also like to thank tattoonow.com, technology for tattooers, the leading edge in professional development, management, and digital tools for tattooers of all levels. They are 100% competitive with any type of CRM, mailing list, or scheduling software out there. So if you're really looking for the digital tools to help you streamline your booking process, to help you get more clients through the door that want to get the kind of work that you really want to do, take a look at tattoonow.com. They've been an industry leader in helping artists get booked and butts in seats for over 20 years. And I would also like to thank the man, the myth, and the legend, Guy Aitchison, who is the founder and inspiration behind Reinventing the Tattoo. You can go to guyaitchison.com where you can pick up a copy of his Biomech Encyclopedia, some of his tutorial DVDs. I believe he still has a few custom coil machines for sale, as well as countless fine art prints and the occasional original oil painting, all for sale at guyaitchison.com. Would also like to say a very special thank you and shout out to Amy Nichols over at the Apprenticeship Diaries. If you are looking to become a tattoo apprentice, or if you are an apprentice hopeful, or if you are a current tattoo apprentice and you want to know if the apprenticeship you have is any good, take a look at the Apprenticeship Diaries with Amy Nichols. It is my personal recommendation for one of the best resources to go through and find out more information about what a tattoo apprenticeship is going to be like or should be like, should you already be in one. We ask that if you like today's show, we always ask that you please go through, post a positive review on the channel. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Helps us all out. Also, that way you stay up to date and you won't miss any future episodes or shows here on the channel. If you would like to host a Reinventing the Tattoo event or become a sponsor of our community, or if you're looking for a fine art or a tattoo critique, you can always email management at reinventingthetattoo.com and we will get back to you as soon as we can. And now that our introduction is all wrapped up, I'm going to introduce the person of the hour, and that is Thea Duskin. Thea is credited and has been mentioned in many different news articles and press links, interviewed everywhere from the BBC, Complex, BuzzFeed, Inked, Juxtapose, The Public, and has had numerous international gallery exhibitions. Let's thank everyone for joining today.
Hi. I hope I have this lined up right. I switched my camera like in mid.
Oh, yeah, you're good.
Okay, better.
You are just fine. I'm actually going to blow this up a little bit. I'm going to make myself smaller. And let's do. Don't want full screen. Let me switch this around. Hold on. There we go. Much better. There we go. I wish there was one way that we could do. I thought there was a way that we could. Yeah, well, this will. Let's flip this. There we go. Nope, wrong button again. New layouts are crazy. There we go. All right, we're just going to keep you up full screen. Thank you for joining us and taking some time out to join us today. We really, really appreciate it. You've been a huge inspiration to me personally, and I can only imagine several other people. So,
Appreciate that. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Um, so tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where do you work? A little bit about your background. Do you have any formal art education? Are you self-taught? Inquiring minds want to know.
Um, I'm from Buffalo, New York originally, which is where I live now. I lived in Virginia, in Richmond, for about 12 years, from the early to mid tens. And it was a really great city to live in and kind of really cut my teeth more on tattooing. It's a great city to be a tattoo artist and to learn, you know, from different people around you. So, I mean, there was a lot of, I would say, very interesting experimental artists in Buffalo and have come out of Buffalo over the years, which is kind of like weird to think. Most people don't really consider Buffalo as anything. So it's just kind of cool that there's been a few, like, Corey Cudney came here from here, Amanda Waka from here, and from here. We were all kind of working independently of each other in our own, you know, interests. But it's just interesting that, like, Buffalo's a city of, like, weird art, I think, in general.
Interesting, interesting. So what led you to get into tattooing? If you had to pick like one single event or inspiration.
I don't know if there was a single event. I think in the mid 90s, when I was a teenager, I was definitely, like, exposed to a lot of cool subculture stuff. Was really interesting back then. Um, I was even a little bit young, I think, to be able to be fully immersed in it, unfortunately, because things have sort of changed even over the years. But I don't know. There was a lot of cool stuff. I went up to Toronto. Uh, as a teenager, I got tattooed in Toronto when I was well underage, but up there it was like different rules, so it was a little easier. And I definitely, actually overseas too. I think I was in England with my family, and I saw some, like, really cool, obviously people who were tattooed, but then also, like, I remember seeing some magazines, and I can't remember if they were like modern primitives or what exactly they were, but it was like these beautiful hand poked, like, stipple tattoos, which were like very advanced, considering, like, now that kind of stuff is more commonplace, and obviously it was pretty rare at that time. But it was like, it's just interesting to see, like, how people were experimenting, over the years, especially back then. And I think, like, because it wasn't so prevalent, and ubiquitous, I was really intrigued at the as at the medium itself being, like, having so much potential. And I don't know, I love the idea of the three-dimensional composition and wearing it and being fully immersed in the art, because I always liked installation art and various types of, like, assemblage and collage, which informs my work, design wise. So
Well,
it's all sort
that
of full circle.
well, it does, but that's also a very interesting take. We have a lot of artists on here that are very influenced by two-dimensional art, paintings, drawings. We I haven't really interviewed too many people that have really immersed themselves in like installation art or other three-dimensional forms of art. So, I mean, that just makes me wonder, like, who would some of your biggest influences or inspirations be for creating art? And what's drawn you to them?
Well, it depends on what type of. I have a lot of different inspirations across
Ah,
different media.
fair enough.
But talking about installation and sculptural stuff, which doesn't come up that much. I mean, like the brothers Quay, they're animators, but they're also, they sculpt everything in their sets and puppets and everything. It's incredible work. So that's a huge influence, I would say, on me, like, visually, and just appreciative of their particular vision. And then there's an artist, Peta Coin, who does really beautiful, like, she's done a lot of different stuff over the years, but like taxidermy, multiples, like really big installation pieces that are, like, everything from like wax on artificial flowers and like natural elements and feathers and hair. This is a really cool artist. Um, yeah, I don't know. A lot of uh, Whitkin, Joel Peter Whitkin, which also
Mm,
brings in some tattooing because he had some, very interesting tattooed subjects. His stuff is super inspirational.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I know I asked you this before, but what would you consider to be your primary medium as an artist? You can say tattooing if you want that to be your primary medium, but it's something I always like to understand because with a lot of artists out there, you can really see a correlation between the mediums that they prefer to work in time and time again and the influence that that has on the work that they do in the tattoo world. So it's always something I kind of like to ask.
hmm Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't. It seems dishonest to say anything other than tattoo because that's what I do. Every day
Right.
or almost every day, I'm like doing something about that. So, I mean, professionally, I'm definitely primarily a tattoo artist, but I guess I would see myself as a more holistic artist beyond that, like where everything informs the other things. And I don't know, that keeps it fresh and creative. Maybe that's, the reason I don't like to define myself other than what I have to do, like to make a living.
That
But I
makes
love
sense.
tattooing. I don't just do it because I have to, obviously. But it's the only thing that really pays that well. And that's,
True.
you know,
True story.
maybe, you
One of
know,
the few fields in fine art that actually, you can make a living at before
right.
you die.
Right. Otherwise, you're kind of trapped in the institutions, I think,
Yep.
which is fine for a lot of people, and it's probably better in some ways. But yeah, that's a much more challenging path to pursue. You really have to be a passionate educator, I think, to belong in that field anyway. Which is, most artists, I think, would rather just be doing their art, right?
Well, true. True. So that brings me up to another couple of questions that I have for you on that same kind of topic. Um, have you noticed any kind of a correlation between the paintings, drawings, collage work? Have you noticed any kind of a major impact that that's had on the style of tattoos that you're starting to prefer to do?
I'm sorry. Could you
Okay.
reiterate? But
So, has there been a correlation between, say, the collage work that you do, the drawings, the paintings? You're phenomenal with watercolor. Have you noticed the correlation between the fine art you produce and the tattoos that you do, or vice versa? Have you noticed a correlation between the tattoos that you do and how that kind of blends itself into the fine art that you produce?
yeah, it's a little hard to articulate, I guess, like the specific connection between things because it's more like a vibe.
Fair
Like,
enough. That's fair. That's a totally legitimate answer.
everything has such a different, um, requirement and like, job and series, whatever, what you have to do to make it happen. But I think maybe it's the design portion that is really most shared, across things because you're looking at, I don't know, you're looking at how to execute something and you're looking at like taking a step back from it and taking it all in. And yeah, I don't know, like having a stage where you just like ideate and think about, what something could be. I like to do that a lot. I think I like to look at a lot of different uh, source material or inspiration images, just to kind of, I don't know, have a really open period of whatever project to just explore different ideas, and then kind of rule stuff out hypothetically in that case, and then things just start to become more obvious, like as far as like what fits best, what's the most complementary design or uh, aesthetic choice, right? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Um, so if you could pick one event or one thing that you could say has had the biggest impact on the type and style of either art or tattoos that you create, like one specific thing, what would you say that that would be?
Um,
And if there isn't one thing, that's fine too. That's acceptable.
Aesthetically or like approach wise, I mean, aesthetically, I guess probably the easiest answer is like just Asian art and the period of time I think is particularly interesting to me where like uh, European art was like strongly influenced by Asian art, like in the, you know, turn of the century and like that whole period of like, heavy influence, but the interesting interplay between, the different cultures and like that kind of design choice I think is really timeless and like really solid.
Awesome. So a couple of questions we've got coming in from people that are watching. We've got Ink Journeys that asked, "What is your favorite style and what is your least favorite style?"
I think my favorite style is like very large full body composition that doesn't necessarily take up the whole body, like something that allows you to have a lot of negative space and really strong composition that like considers the entire body as a whole rather than like just one particular element of it. And then within that, a little more specifically, I guess I like abstract and organic uh, mixing. So that type of design is my favorite to do and probably also to look at. And then my least favorite, I don't know, my actual least favorite, probably like color portraits, maybe.
Fair enough.
They can be so beautifully done and like incredible, but there's something like weird about it, especially when people put blue backgrounds on color. That's probably
Mm,
my pet peeve.
awesome. Um, so uh, so I do have one other question from someone that's currently watching, and I'll get to you in just a minute. I've got a couple other questions that bounce off of that. Um, so, what led you to choose the style of work that you really love to embrace? That large scale composition. Is it just working with the whole body as a canvas and then how that turns and moves and the different natural curves that are there, the challenge of it? Is there any one specific thing that might have led you to choose that over something that, maybe is smaller, a bit more constrained, something that can be done start to finish in one session? Is anything specific that led you to kind of, you know, get more focused into the large scale work?
I wouldn't even necessarily say that that is my primary work is like always doing large scale stuff. I have done a lot of large scale stuff, but like not, it's unfortunately not something you get to do all the time.
True.
Most people have other tattoos or whatever. They don't, that's a huge commitment. But also just like, I don't know, I just like that as an aesthetic. I think it's really nice to just consider the whole body. And that doesn't necessarily mean you can't have multiple tattoos. It just means like, I think that it's really great when like everything kind of works, on a body. Like to think, and then I feel like, I don't know, like people don't look at it unless you're like looking at yourself in a full body mirror. You're seeing just parts. You're seeing like, your your t-shirt sleeve is cutting off like whatever part of your arm and showing part of it, which is fine to also consider how it's going to look in different situations, but it's just nice to like be able to, like, when you're thinking about what you want to get tattooed or what tattoos you want to do on people, to be able to look at your whole body is something I think is, should be considered maybe even more often than it is. Like, it doesn't have to be that you're composing a full body piece for someone, to just like help them to at least conceptualize their whole body or what they want it to look like.
Hmm. That's that's awesome. So that's a way I've personally never really kind of thought about things, or like on how to approach things with clients. That's I'm gonna have to start doing that. Thank you.
Sure.
Um, so knowing that you really like to work with tattooing as your primary medium, out of all of the elements of art that you incorporate into your tattoos, whether it be contrast, depth effects, color, line, composition, if you had to say that there was one specific element that you really try to work with and emphasize, that you really try to capitalize on in every type of and every tattoo that you do, if there was one element that you really try to put the most focus on, what would that be?
Probably it having some kind of interesting silhouette, or like it just having some kind of relationship to the negative space, like the way that the tattoo ends and the skin begins. I think is something I think is very important to me. Um, and just having it laying across whatever body part it's on in the most, you know, the most flowing way, I guess, possible, so that it's complementing the anatomy.
Okay. Okay. Would you say that the majority of stuff that you do, would you say that you do a lot more smaller pieces, or like sleeves, or individual like one shot tattoos? Would you say that there's any size that you end up doing more of?
I probably do the most. I don't know, like a quarter sleeve, I guess you would be considered,
Okay.
like a third, like, so it's like a part of the body. Like, I'd like to do things where they are at least sort of in scale with the body part that they're on. So, not necessarily arms, although a lot of people get arms, but yeah, I like to be like at least a good portion of the space that it's in, at least, where it just looks like it belongs. If it's a small tattoo, I prefer to do it somewhere, where the body part is small too, where it's like, you know, lower leg or lower arm is always good for that type of stuff. But I mean, a lot of people will start with something small too, and then it ends up growing into a bigger project.
Right.
That happens.
Um, what's been the most challenging tattoo that you've ever done?
Hmm. Uh, Sometimes just the scale of stuff is really challenging. Like, just the completion rate of like really large projects, I would say, is pretty challenging. So, depending on what it is you're doing, like, that's one difficulty with like going really large with stuff, is like either compromising on the amount of like detail, or complexity of what you're doing, versus like your actual likelihood of it being like what you want it to be. That is a challenging thing about some pieces, but just maximizing your efficiency in that case, right? So that's a challenge. But also, I don't know, I would say, I think, like, I don't like to do a lot of technical illustration type stuff. That's like not super fun to do.
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
challenging. Um, let's see. I don't know. I did like klimt patterns. My God, that'll kill you.
Yeah.
But I kind of love that shit too, though. So I don't know. I keep doing it to myself.
Yeah, I love the challenge of doing stuff like that, and just maintaining focus on it, and then
Mm-hmm.
having that being balanced with other things that are not pattern based.
Right.
So to me, I always enjoy that kind of a challenge, but at the same time, it's like I'll get done working on anything pattern based, and it's like, okay, I need to stare at something asymmetrical for like a solid half hour
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah, it's a little rough. It does look good though.
Um, would you say that you work with your color work? Would you say that you work in any specific color palette, or is that kind of determined more by the piece?
Definitely determined more by the piece, and I do like to have that reference pretty figured out beforehand. I don't love to like, I don't know, change colors on the fly, or like, because color relationships are so important.
Right.
So I do try to just figure that out beforehand, I guess. Um, but I do like to mix a lot of inks though, like while I'm working. I definitely like to. I do a lot of that across, not like mixing the whole bottle. Although I have tons of different colors, can't stop.
Right. I think we all do, and we all have gotten to that point at one point in time or another where we've got like 9 different blues or reds, and it's like, okay, well, where do I go
Yeah,
from here? Which
they
ones do I
really
need to use?
they really are subtly different though, where it's hard to not want to just have it.
Right,
You're
right.
both.
Some are using different base pigments, which will create different tones when you mix them with other colors.
Right.
If you take something that's more like even in painting, like if you mix a cadmium red with like an ultramarine, or you mix an alizarin crimson with an ultramarine, you're going to get two very different outcomes,
Exactly.
all based on that underlying base pigment.
Hmm.
So I love asking artists about that, because some artists are like, no, I've got a very strict color palette I work with. It's
Sure.
warm or it's cool. And
Right.
then I base everything I do off of that. Other
Right.
artists are kind of like, well, we'll mix it up and we'll figure out the color scheme and the color relationships and the balance well in advance. And
Hmm.
then from there, it's just a matter of applying it. So I'm always curious to find out how different people, different artists at your level, like what their mental process is, because there's lots of different ways to approach any given kind of tattoo.
That's true.
Um,
I definitely
so
tend to prefer stuff a little more on the like muted tone scale, just in general.
I was going
Um,
to say, I noticed that when looking. So I'm actually at uh, your gallery page now, just looking at some of the tattoos that you've done. And I'll go through and I'll plug that in just a minute and share that with everyone. But I've noticed you do use a lot of muted tones with just like a couple of different vibrant tones throughout.
hmm.
And is there a reason? I mean, obviously, just more for emphasis, but you can really see a lot of muted greens, a lot of browns, even some subtle muted reds and pinks in there, next
Hmm.
to some really vibrant blues, and even some very vibrant oranges in certain pieces. But it seems like you tone down a lot of the other colors, um, to allow more one color to really stand out above the rest. It's just something that I've kind of picked up just looking at your work over the years. So
Yeah.
um, it's always an inspiration, because I'm like, oh no, that should be muted. I mean, yeah, no, that should be more like this. So
Yeah. I mean, bright tattoos are awesome too, but and it's an aesthetic choice. But I do like stuff to be a little more soft and like right if there's gonna be something intense, like let it just be the one thing.
absolutely. I've also noticed that you really control the amount of well, I mean, not with every tattoo, obviously, but I've noticed with a lot of your softer work, you really have this really tight control over the amount of black and gray tones that you use in a lot of your pieces. Is that just so that you can create a much softer effect, or is that for some type of a different reason?
I mean, that is, yeah, it's definitely multifaceted, I guess. Like, I like there to be, I mean, your black is going to be your highest contrast. So I don't like that to be everywhere. I want it to be more emphatic where you want that attention, I guess, or where it really needs to be dark in the value, but I really like to use like off like chromatic blacks, way more.
Okay.
I like to mix with between colors like purple, green, red or something, right? Like just to make something that's pretty dark but doesn't actually have that flattened out shadow color that black does. Like black can be obviously very practical to use, especially if you're gonna lay in stuff, quickly over it with like gray wash background. But sometimes the gray will muddy some of like the more translucent colors. Like it just doesn't look great like under like yellows and stuff. So I like
Right.
that a lot of white in the pigment to compensate, I think. Um, but sometimes it's definitely useful and faster to lay down like a gray wash. But otherwise, yeah, I like to really reserve my blacks, especially my actual blacks, for pretty limited areas. And I personally think that in terms of longevity, that's actually preferable because I would rather something soften up and be restorable versus like having so much black, because the black really you can't take it away, right? It's just
Right.
there. So you can always add to something.
Yep. So that's actually something that was drilled into my head when I was coming up in the tattoo industry is, if you start out with only so much black, you can always add more later on at a follow-up session, see how it heals, see if it's going to be dark enough and have enough contrast at first. Then you can always add more black to it. But once you put in X amount of black to begin with, that's there and that's not really going anywhere.
Right,
So,
right.
sometimes it's better to err on the side of caution and not
Sure,
put in quite as much.
sure. I think it's
Um,
definitely for a younger artist, it'll be your friend to like go less heavy on the black. But in general, I mean, like I just think, yeah, in terms of longevity, like I prefer the look of softened dark colors. As long as it's well saturated, I think
right.
it looks nice.
So, what have been some of the biggest challenges that you've faced in your tattoo career and your fine art career? And how have you overcome those challenges?
Um, well, the beginning was definitely a long road of like being self-taught as a tattoo artist. That took an awfully long time to really figure out, how to do it, not just be fully experimenting. Uh, and I still don't feel like I would ever like take an apprentice because I don't know how I would like teach someone in the same way. Like I feel like I can do a seminar about art or ideas or making you know making something happen, but the idea of like a full-on apprenticeship, like I didn't have that, so I have a conception of what that should be like, but I don't really feel like I could do it.
Fair enough.
I just you know figured it out eventually.
Yeah,
But there's
as
something
so many of us have.
exactly. I mean, and it's just fascinating now. Like I feel like I have a better opportunity now to learn actual, I don't know, systematic stuff about tattoo application and technique than ever before, because you have like people breaking stuff down in videos and like showing you like close-ups. Like you would never have gotten that in the best apprenticeship
True.
like back in the day. So it's kind of interesting time right now, like, and makes me want to be more, I don't know, technically dialed in and like want to, I don't know. I always imagine like how cool it would be to be one of those people who like writes down your f stops when you take photos and documents, impeccably everything. Like, oh, every color I use on every tattoo. Like, I love the idea of that. I don't know if it'll ever be actually implemented, but it's nice that that's more possible now. I feel like where you could actually, you know, know what you're doing fully. I don't know.
True. That actually touches on another question that I had. So very easy bridge here. What have been what have been some of the real positive things that you've seen in the tattoo industry as a whole in, say, the past 5 or 10 years, as compared to before, maybe when you were coming up? What have been some of those real nice positive changes that you've seen that make you turn around and say, "Hey, this is way better than it used to be."
I mean, I think it's pretty remarkable just the explosion of creativity that has happened, in the last decades of it becoming more popular and adopted by different artists, like exploring it. And that it's really nice, yeah, to have gone from it being like, wow, I wonder what it would look like if someone did a tattoo like this, to like so many things almost anything you can think of, someone has done it now, and so you can actually be like, oh, that's what that would look like if it was tattooed, or like that's
Right?
how they would do it, or maybe I would do it differently or whatever. It's way different to have that kind of landscape of inspiration, and I don't know, just other creatives doing it versus the way it used to be, where you really, and just in general, yeah, the accessibility of information, and for better or worse, in some ways, I don't know, like it's definitely wildly different than it used to be. I mean, you used to have to depend on every word of like someone who knew maybe a little bit more than you did, and half the time they didn't know what they were talking about either. So
Fair
I don't,
enough.
not that there's no misinformation on the internet about doing something, for God's sake, but I don't know, it's just different now, which is kind of, so yeah, that uh, definitely, I don't know, more cooperative minds working together. I don't know, that's sort of the great thing about the internet and modern everything, is like the interconnectivity of people, I guess, the collaborative potential of that, probably. So
Excellent.
that's cool, yeah. Way more open.
So we did have a question that came through in the YouTube chat. Enrica asked, "Is it frustrating to create beautiful works of art and then send them off into the world to maybe never see them again?"
um Well, not, I don't know. It's only frustrating if you didn't get a good picture. That certainly used to be the case. Just because you don't even kind of, I don't know, you need to be able, I think, to refer back to your work to be able to grow and like evaluate yourself and, examine what you did. So that is really challenging about tattooing, because the person, yeah, leaves. It's not the same, obviously, in a photo as it is in person, but um, we're not getting to see it healed, right? Like whatever. There's all that kind of stuff that's challenging about it. Um, but it's not, I don't know. I love the idea of like seeding art into the world and it going somewhere. I know I've done a lot of stuff that I wouldn't remember if I not just tattooing, but like I don't know. You ever see like art you made or somebody you gave to somebody or something years later, and you like don't even recognize it as your
Yep.
own? I don't know. It's kind of cool. I don't know. It's an interesting I don't know, creative process. I think I love like anonymous art. I love like street art. That was always really cool and fascinating to me. Just like, it's not so important that it's attached to you. It's just like, and it's really cool to encounter it in the wild, and you're like, oh, I did that.
Yeah.
It's cool.
We did have another question. Someone watching the YouTube asked, "How was the trip to California?"
I really like it out there. It's cool. LA is really a neat city. I like it a lot. And I love the studio I worked at. I had a great time. Um, Exploring the city a little bit more. It was only my second time out there, to LA at least. So I got to see it a little more. It was like 5 days I was there last time. So this time I think it was 10. And it was off on working, which was like pretty cool, because I actually got to just, work a day, take a day, work a day, take a day. And it was just really nice to catch up with some old friends and uh, clients out there. So I had a great time. I love LA. Yeah.
Awesome. So few other questions that I have for you. If you had to give one piece of advice to a new budding artist out there, what would it be?
Um, I think it would definitely be to like just work really hard at your art. You definitely only get out what you put in. So the harder you're willing to work at it, and the more, I think, like if you're young, you have tons of time to like experiment and like try different things out and see what resonates with you personally. Um, which can sometimes be like emulating someone else or multiple other people's styles until you figure something out that feels like you, or it could just be even more, obscure and experimental than that. Just keep making stuff and don't get too precious with it. Just I don't know, it's just hard to do. You do one thing right, you love it. It's like, but I think I don't know. Someone said something recently that I think rang true, and it was something about you're only like really a professional when it works every time. I think it was a chef thing, right? But it's kind of works across multiple disciplines. Like if you get something right once, you're a beginner. Right? You get something done sometimes, but you don't know when. You're kind of in the middle there. But like you're really a professional when you get it right every time. So there's a lot of like work along the way to reach that level of expertise. So don't
Right
kill
on.
yourself about not getting it right. It's really not important that you get it right every time at first at all.
Great advice. Wish someone had told me that when I was coming up. So going back to your recent trip to California, um, if you do travel often, how has that impacted your art and your career?
um Traveling is awesome, and you should definitely do it at all points in your career, I think, if you can. uh it is challenging. um I think at this point it's maybe actually harder than ever before because there are so many more people tattooing that the specialty isn't necessarily like unique to every area. So like, and also there's just no substitute for building up a local clientele. Like no matter what your style is, like you're gonna have a much stronger uh, audience for your work if you're local, or you go somewhere frequently. That's the other thing. You have to like go to the same places and build up a clientele and your relationship with people, because even having a big Instagram following, like it helps a little bit, but it's not the same thing. It makes it, you know, only slightly easier to reach people. And I know lots of artists, like it's not just one artist. It's like a lot of artists like have trouble um, being fully booked out of town. So you do have to kind of like evaluate the value of it for your own career, but it's just really good to like work, even if you're just like observing other people working, um, practicing something. Like if you're picking up information and you're continuing to work on your own work. Like I like to definitely like bring a sketchbook, obviously, and paint a little bit, even if I'm not tattooing. I try to do something um, productive, even like if I'm on vacation. It's not all the time, right? But like
Right, right.
you got to stay. And really, the more you do it, the better. The better you'll be. The more confident you'll be in your output. I mean, it's yeah. There's just no substitute for that, and hopefully you enjoy it. So.
Fair enough. One final question that I have for you is what truths have you found that are simple but not easy about tattooing, making art, process, the industry in general, any number of different things? Simple but not easy truths.
That's hard.
Right?
That's so unspecific. Uh, uh, you need to stretch. You need to be stretching. You need to be moving your body and stretching. Uh,
Okay.
because any artwork actually is like pretty sedentary. So yeah, that's easy, not easy. Definitely simple. Definitely true. Uh, yeah, you got to take care of yourself. I know we were talking about work-life balance for a second
Yep.
earlier, but everybody kind of knows that in theory, but it's definitely just hard to implement.
Awesome. Awesome.
I'm not sure why.
And
To a more specific question, I'm not sure.
you're going to be teaching at Paradise Gathering this year, correct?
Yes.
And what will you be teaching about?
I will be doing an adaptation of my seminar, probably to focus more on watercolor and watercolor for tattooing,
Okay.
or the adaptation into tattooing. Um, Previously, I have focused on mixed media techniques and more image creation and how to go about, like, I don't know, just sort of exploring composition and media also for tattooing. But I think I'm going to work on, yeah, a version where it's like more simplified and focused on watercolor, because I think it's just more um, of interest and accessible, to more people and applications. So
Awesome.
that's what it's going to be about.
Excellent. I'm really looking forward to seeing you teach at Paradise this year.
Thanks.
That kind of wraps up all the questions that I have. We don't really have any other questions in the comments area. So, on that note, thank you very much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to chat with us today.
Pleasure.
Really, really appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. If you have anything else you'd like to plug, by all means, please feel free to do it. Any art shows coming up or anything like that?
I'm doing a couple theater shows, so I don't have any like 2D shows this summer. But yeah, looking forward to Paradise later this year. It's gonna be great.
Awesome. Well, how can we reach out to you? How can we touch base with you if we were interested in getting tattooed by you or maybe picking up, commissioning you for a painting? What would be the best way to go about getting a hold of you?
Probably my Instagram, which is just Thea Duskin.
Awesome. Excellent.
Cool.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking time out to chat with us today. I
Thanks for
really,
having me.
really appreciate it. Hopefully, we get you back on here again before Paradise Gathering happens. Um, but, worst case scenario, we catch up at Paradise and we can chat some more then.
Cool. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. And have a wonderful day. Thank you, everyone, for watching today. Really appreciate it. As always, hit that like and subscribe button. Catch up on all of the new episodes coming out. And I will see everyone back here again next week on Monday for the next episode of Skill Building Monday. Thea, thank you so much for joining us today and have a wonderful day today.
Thanks again. You too.
You're very welcome. Take care. Bye, everyone.